My name is Larisse Goldstein. I'm from Vancouver and British Columbia, Canada. And I am here to work with the FasterEFT team for the 10-day marathon and help people change their lives.
Okay.
This is my second time here. I was here 5 months ago, and it was really important for me to come back because I wanted to know firsthand what shifts and changes. It's so easy to, I think, to accept from other people that you're doing good, it's really making a difference. And I just had this need to, one, deepen my skills and my experience with working with the type of people here, people with addictions, because it interests me. But primarily and foremost, to check in on the people I'd gotten to know when I was here the first time and see for myself what difference I had made. First off, the thing I noticed first when I came back among the people that were in my radar, who I had met and worked with last time I was here, was the way they carried themselves. They seemed much easier within themselves. Of course, they're still struggling sometimes with the day-to-day existence here. It's a hard place to be. There's a lot to learn and a lot to do and a lot of responsibilities. But some of the women had lost a lot of weight. One gentleman I worked on who had a problem speaking to people was the first one to give a testimonial. He spoke so clearly. He had been frightened of going to school. He's getting A's and B's. He was so eager to share how his life has changed. And there's nothing better than that. What more can you ask for? Before I came here the first time, I'd never worked directly with people in addictions, and addiction in my life had been on the periphery. I had an aunt who was an alcoholic. I had, people out of my direct family had suffered with addictions, but nothing that really touched my life. And so I wondered a lot what I had to give. And a lot of my fellow practitioners I was a little daunted by because they had come from lives of addiction. They had a very personal attachment to the issue. The thing I learned is that people are people, and it's not a us and them. That when you sit next to someone, across from someone, pain is pain, grief is grief, trauma is trauma. And while I haven't sat in the chair tapping for an addiction, I've sat there for loss, for grief, for pain, for trauma, and that's the same. The drivers are the things that I've experienced too. I think before I came here, I really had no clue of what a rehab was all about. I had heard from friends who had children going through rehab about going through the woods and having to live out back, be totally self-sufficient, and then et cetera, et cetera. And I really didn't know what to expect when I got here. When I got here, my incredible aha was addiction is so much more than drying out and getting past the drug. It's really getting at the emotional drivers. And more than that, just that, it's about teaching people who didn't have a blueprint to how to function in the world properly, who are using running from their issues and using drugs as a coping mechanism, how to cope and function in the world successfully without that. And I think that's the aha, the therapeutic model here. That's what it's all about. It's such a more complex issue than drying out from the drug. And to be really successful, you do need the time, you need the commitment, and you really need to give people be role models, have role models, and teach them how to do it differently. And I think that was my biggest aha.
Okay.
And that's been the biggest difficulty. I went back to Vancouver looking for some place to work at, but most of them are just drying people out. And I'm not interested in that work. I think what makes it exciting for me to come here was the work I was doing was backed up by the philosophy of Habilitat. If I can clean up the drivers and create new perspectives, you are them coming along and with this new clean person and saying, and now you do it this way to go forward. This is, you've learned a little bit about boundary making, now you can put it in practice. We're going to help you do that. I've been asking people here, residents, what is the single most effective part of the program, because I've recognized that everything you do with intention. You do some crazy stuff here, some really interesting things. And at first, it just looks like a lot of crazy stuff. But when you start looking at the program, I've recognized everything is done with intention. And it's interesting to sit down to the residents and say, okay, what has been the hardest, most useful thing about Habilitat for you? you know. I think that this program, what makes me excited to work here as a FasterEFT practitioner is a phenomenal match between the philosophy behind EFT and the philosophy here at Habilitat. That there are no broken people, there's just a lot of broken ideas and behaviors. And that when you clean those broken ideas and behaviors, when you clean those things up and teach people new ways of functioning, life is good. And that's very different than the predominant model of addictions, which is disease model. Like Mayor Rob Ford in Toronto just got out of a 3-month rehab and was back online asking people to vote for him, telling him he had a horrible disease, he wouldn't wish it on anybody, and he couldn't promise that his behavior would be good because he had this disease. What do you do with that?
Yeah. We had some politicians here that actually allowed their drug addict husbands to use campaign money to finance their drug endeavors.
A brilliant idea.
Yeah, she got thrown out lock, stock, and barrel.
That's good. They haven't thrown Rob Ford out yet. They might re-elect him.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
But I think it's that victim, the idea that we are not victims. And that lower model of the world. And as long as we play the victim, we're stuck there. And we really advance in life by learning that we have a choice and we need to be responsible not only for our actions but for what we feel and what we nurture inside of us. And I think that's the beauty of the match between FasterEFT and Habilitat. I started studying hypnotherapy, and while I was studying hypnotherapy I was introduced to EFT, classic EFT. I studied that, became a classic EFT practitioner, and then I was introduced to Robert Smith and FasterEFT, and it was really exciting because he combines the best of hypnosis and NLP and tapping. And I just thought that was such a graceful model, and it really works. The principle behind classic EFT is that there's an energy blockage in the body, and that by tapping on the meridian points, you release that energy blockage and you can be free of your emotional upsets and move on. FasterEFT doesn't believe that it's an energy blockage causing the problem. It believes you're perfectly creating what you know how to create, and that if I've got an issue, it's because I'm thinking or feeling or being triggered by something that I'm holding inside, and that's what needs to be changed in order to experience something new and different. And prior to that, my background was as an educator. I was a teacher, teaching K through 12, and so I've always liked working with people, and I've always been interested in how people learn and the differences, the different ways people learn and why they learn differently. So it's been a real natural fit. I'm not real in touch with. There's a lot of drugs, a lot of homelessness, and they're selling crack pipes on in vending machines. You can get them, but the main model is one of disease, big methadone program, needle exchange, and I would love to come back to Hawaii and Habilitat and to continue. The more I meet with the residents, the more I get to know them, I think the deeper our work goes. I think it is a trust issue and a nice continuity, and it's just so satisfying to see the progress and to learn and work with the other practitioners too has really deepened my skill set. And the biggest takeaway, I think, though, has been the one that there is no us and them. It's all us, and as long as you're willing and ready and open to connecting, amazing things can happen. My name is Larisse Goldstein, and I work out of Vancouver, BC, in Canada. I do Skype sessions or one-on-one. I have an office space, and I can be reached at thrivetapping.com. I work with people with drug addiction, chronic illness, relationship issues, pain, panic issues, stuck in life, all sorts of things. And I'd love to work with you. I would like to thank you, Jeff Nash, for giving us the opportunity to come here, for allowing me to come here and participate. It's been an amazing experience, a really gratifying experience, and it's enriched my life in so many ways. So thank you very much. The people here, the staff, and the residents are an inspiration.
It's an honor to have you.
And I've become a much harder parent. They hate it when I come back home.